Hollywood's grittiest working-class icon stepped onto the stage of The View expecting a routine interview, but what unfolded was anything but ordinary. Mark Wahlberg arrived to promote his latest film, yet he walked into a setup that felt more like a showdown. If you think you've witnessed intense celebrity moments before, brace yourself. This wasn't just a heated back and forth with Joy Behar. It was a full-on clash of pride, personal history, and what it really means to be decent, all playing out live in front of millions. As Mark entered the studio, the crowd clapped, but there was already a tension hanging in the air that softened his trademark Boston confidence. He was dressed sharply in a navy suit, wearing a warm smile as he greeted the co-hosts. He nodded to Whoopi and Sunny, then looked to Joy Behar, whose smile hinted at something sharper beneath the surface. "Welcome back to The View," Joy said, leaning into her mic with a sparkle in her eye. "We're joined by actor and producer Mark Wahlberg, who's here to talk about his newest film." Her pause on "newest film" was brief but noticeable. Mark responded with a polite smile. "Thanks, Joy. It's always a pleasure." Joy's head tilted, her grin widening. "Oh, I bet it is," she said, with a touch of sarcasm. "You've had quite the career, Mark. Would you say you're a successful actor?" The audience gave a nervous chuckle. Mark blinked, a bit surprised, but stayed composed. "I've been lucky. I work hard, and I'm proud of the work I've done." Joy's laugh, sharp and dismissive, cut through the air. "Hard work, or just playing the same tough Boston guy over and over? Honestly, if you've seen one Wahlberg role, haven't you seen them all?" The room fell quiet. Mark's jaw tensed just a bit, but he remained calm, hands folded. "Well, Joy," he said steadily, "I think each character has their own story, if you're paying attention." "Oh, I pay attention," Joy snapped. "But I haven't seen much depth. Your characters are either angry cops, angry soldiers, or angry fighters. Sounds more like you're playing yourself." Whoopi shifted uncomfortably. "Joy," she started, but Joy waved her off. Mark sat up straighter, locking eyes with her. "That's your opinion, and you're welcome to it," he said. "But the millions of people who watch my films and find something to connect with might feel differently." "Oh, the relatable everyman," Joy mocked, making air quotes. "The guy with mansions in Beverly Hills and $1,000 suits. Super relatable." Mark let out a brief chuckle, though the irritation behind his eyes was showing. "I've never forgotten where I came from. You can succeed and still remember your roots." Joy's face hardened, her tone sharpening. "Please. You're as Hollywood as they come. You make millions pretending to struggle, while real people actually do. You don't speak for working-class folks. You left that life behind." The room went quiet again. Mark took a breath, his Boston accent slipping in. "That's a pretty bold claim, Joy. You don't know me, and you sure don't know where I came from." Joy leaned back with her arms crossed, smirking. "Maybe not. But I know what I see. And what I see is someone who traded his street cred for a Hollywood paycheck and forgot what it's like to really fight for something." Mark's hands clenched under the table, though his face stayed neutral. "You've got a lot to say about me," he said slowly, "but it sounds like maybe you're talking about yourself." There was a sharp inhale from the crowd. Joy's face flushed. She leaned forward, her voice rising. "Oh, don't worry, we'll get to me. But right now, this is about you. And I'm far from finished." Mark leaned back slightly, narrowing his eyes just a bit. "Neither am I," he replied. And as the show cut to commercial, everyone, both in the studio and watching from home, knew this moment wasn't just TV drama. It was about to become unforgettable. As the lights came back on and the cameras resumed rolling, Mark sat calmly with his hands clasped, though the tightness in his jaw betrayed his rising frustration. Joy Behar now leaned in, her look a mix of boldness and something close to satisfaction. Whoopi and the other co-hosts sat silently, clearly uneasy, glancing between Joy and Mark like spectators to a brewing storm. Joy wasted no time. "So, Mark," she said, her tone sugary but with a bite. "This new film of yours, let me guess. Another angry guy from Boston with a chip on his shoulder? Or did you finally change it up and play an angry Boston guy, wearing a different hat?" The audience chuckled uncomfortably. Mark smiled faintly, but his eyes didn't match it. "That's funny, Joy," he said. "But if you watched the film instead of skimming the press notes, you'd see it's about redemption, a man trying to set things right." "Redemption," Joy repeated, mocking him as she clapped her hands dramatically. "Perfect. Since your whole career's been one long attempt to redeem yourself from what you were before Hollywood saved you." The words landed like a slap. Mark's posture stiffened, but he kept his calm. He looked at her evenly. "You want to talk about my past? Fine. I've made mistakes. I've taken responsibility for them. And I've worked hard to build a better life." Joy jumped on his response. "Taken responsibility, or just swept it under the rug while smiling for the cameras? Because it seems like the same Mark Wahlberg, just with nicer clothes." Mark's mouth pressed into a firm line. "You really like tearing people down, don't you?" he asked quietly. Joy shrugged, leaning back smugly. "I like calling out fakes when I see them." "You act like I'm pretending to care about people," Mark said. "But you have no idea what I do off camera. And you definitely don't know what matters to me." "Oh, but I do," Joy snapped, her voice rising with her Brooklyn edge. "You care about ticket sales, your public image, and staying relevant by playing the same role again and again because you're too scared to try something real." Mark finally let out a cold laugh, shaking his head. "You know what's funny? You sit here every day preaching about kindness, progress, and equality. But the second someone disagrees with you or doesn't fit your script, you treat them like dirt." That struck a chord. Even Whoopi raised an eyebrow. But Joy didn't blink. "Better to be dirt than a fake," she shot back, leaning in. Mark's eyes narrowed just slightly, but his tone stayed calm. "You think I'm a fraud? I've spent my whole life proving I'm not." Joy slammed her hand on the table. "Please. You call acting for millions of dollars hard work? You think that means you understand real struggle? You're just a product of Hollywood, Mark, nothing more." Mark's fists curled on the table, knuckles pale, but he held his voice steady. "Say what you want about me, but don't insult the people who've stood by me. The ones you look down on from that chair every day." Joy's laugh was sharp and cruel. "Oh, don't flatter yourself. Nobody supports you. They support the idea of you. Because it's easier than facing the truth. You're just another lucky guy with too much money." The air in the studio turned thick with tension. Even the camera seemed to wobble as it zoomed in on Mark's face. His jaw was tight, his eyes intense. He leaned in slightly, his words firm. "You've got a lot of things to say about me, Joy. But the truth is, you don't want a real answer. You just want to win." Joy leaned forward to match his energy. "Oh, Mark, you still don't get it." "I already did." That smug smile was the final spark. Mark leaned back slowly, the air between them charged. Silence filled the studio like a storm about to break. His nostrils flared as he exhaled, never looking away. Finally, Whoopi's voice broke through, cautious. "Maybe we should move on to the movie." But neither Mark nor Joy even glanced her way. Joy's sweet smile was back, but her eyes were still lit with fire. "Oh no," she said. "We're just getting started." And Mark's quiet smirk, both amused and dangerous, said it all. "You're right," he murmured. "We are." The studio audience was dead quiet, the energy electric. All eyes were locked on the face-off, like a crowd watching two fighters in a ring. Mark calmly adjusted his cufflinks, resting his hands back on the table. His voice was firm but measured. "You enjoy this, don't you?" Joy raised an eyebrow, that smirk deepening. Enjoy what, Mark? Asking the questions nobody else dares to? No, Mark said, leaning in slightly. Enjoy trying to embarrass people. You're not interested in truth. Mark continued, his voice sharp but composed. You care about getting laughs and applause. You care about sounding clever, at someone else's expense. The crowd started murmuring, some agreeing, some shifting uncomfortably. The tension was rising fast. Joy scoffed and flicked her hand in the air. Oh, please, spare me the wounded tough guy act, she said. You're an actor, Mark. You're good at pretending, but you don't scare me. Mark leaned back slightly, his tone low. Good, he replied. Because you don't impress me. That one landed hard. Joy's nostrils flared as she sat straighter in her chair. You know what your problem is? She snapped. You've been told you're amazing for so long that you've started to believe it. Mark tilted his head, his lips forming a faint, sharp smile. You know what your problem is? He shot back. You've spent so long tearing others down, you forgot what it means to actually stand for something. That line hit deep. Joy paused, just briefly, before leaning forward again. Cute, she said coldly. But let's talk about what you really stand for. Average movies, forgettable roles, and a career built on your abs and your accent. Gasps echoed from the audience, and even Whoopi winced. Mark's jaw tightened, but he didn't flinch. His voice remained calm. That's rich coming from someone who's built a career throwing insults at people who are actually out there making something happen. Joy let out a harsh laugh. Making what happen? Playing pretend? Acting like you're a hero while real people like me, fight for something real? Mark slowly shook his head. You're confusing fighting for something with fighting everyone. The audience burst into applause, some clapping, others rising to their feet. But Joy stayed focused. She leaned in closer, her voice dropping to a cutting tone. You think that speech earns you points? Please. Your whole career's been one long street hustle, just cleaned up for Hollywood. Mark's eyes darkened. For the first time, his control slipped ever so slightly. He pressed his palms flat on the table and leaned in until she could see the fire in his stare. Say whatever you want about me, he said, voice low and serious. But don't insult the people I grew up with. You wouldn't last one day where I come from. Joy smirked, thinking she had him cornered. Oh, really? What now, Mark? Gonna drag me outside? Show me how tough you really are? Maybe throw a punch, like the old days? Mark let out a sharp breath through his nose, shaking his head. That's the difference between us, Joy. You think strength means yelling or throwing punches. Real strength is staying calm when someone like you is trying to take your dignity. The words hit like a hammer. The studio seemed to freeze. Even the cameras seemed unsure of where to focus. Joy curled her lip into a mean smile. Oh, Mark. You already lost your dignity. You're just too proud to see it. The silence that followed was heavy. The lights felt hotter. The tension hung in the air like a weight on everyone's chest. Mark slowly fixed his tie, his expression composed, though the fire in his eyes had only grown. Then he spoke. Quiet, steady, but clear. You know what? You're not worth it. Joy's smile faltered for the first time, but she quickly recovered. Oh? Walking away now? Figures. Mark pushed his chair back slowly, the scrape of it echoing through the room. He stood, not rushing, not flustered. Not running, he said flatly. Walking away, because I still have my self-respect. The crowd gasped again. Then, applause broke out. Some clapped for him. Others didn't. But no one could look away. Joy leaned back, crossing her arms, wearing a victorious smile. But something flickered behind her eyes, like maybe she realized she had pushed too far. Mark stood quietly, looking around the room before glancing back at her. "You've shown everyone exactly who you are," he said. "And so have I." Then he turned toward the side of the stage and began to walk away. The camera followed his every step as he moved toward the curtain. His pace was calm and measured. He didn't look back. Each step felt like it carried meaning. Behind him, the studio was filled with murmurs and soft laughs, people trying to make sense of what they'd just witnessed. Joy sat still, her arms folded, her mouth drawn in a tight line. The smirk was gone. Her face now held something between anger and regret. Mark paused just before stepping behind the curtain. Slowly, he turned back toward the audience. The camera zoomed in on his face, still calm, but with a fire burning in his eyes. "I came here today," he said, his voice rising just enough, "to talk about my work. To share something I believe in. I expected hard questions. I expected differences in opinion. But I didn't expect cruelty disguised as journalism." Joy flinched at the word cruelty, though she tried to brush it off with an eye roll. Mark stepped forward again, moving closer to center stage so everyone, both in the studio and at home, could hear. People watched this show looking for honesty, real conversation. But instead they get someone using their platform to shame others, to humiliate them, just to get a reaction. The audience reacted loudly now, some clapping, others sitting frozen in place. A few people even stood again. Mark let the noise settle before saying his final piece. "You don't have to like me," Mark continued, his voice calm but firm. "You don't even need to respect me. But never think that your job gives you the right to treat people like they're beneath you. That's not journalism. That's just bullying, with better lighting." Joy's mouth opened slightly, like she had a comeback, but no words came out. Mark nodded once, mostly to himself, and turned to leave. As he stepped behind the curtain, the audience burst into full applause. Some stood, some even called out his name. Backstage, Mark's publicist and a few stunned producers stood frozen, unsure what to say. He walked past them with nothing more than a polite "Thank you," his expression calm again. Meanwhile, on stage, Joy sat in silence, staring down at her hands. The other co-hosts, Whoopi, Sarah, and Sunny, exchanged nervous looks, clearly unsettled. Finally, Whoopi spoke, her voice awkward. "Well, we'll be right back after this break." But everyone knew, whether they were in the room or watching at home, there was no coming back from what had just unfolded. Just minutes after the cameras stopped rolling, social media exploded. Clips of the exchange flooded Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Hashtags like #Mark vs. Joy, #Wahlberg walkout, and #View meltdown were trending within hours. Fans and critics started dissecting every moment, each line, every look. The internet chose sides quickly. Some praised Joy for being bold, but many more praised Mark for staying calm, for standing his ground. One thing was certain, public opinion was swinging hard in his favor. Headlines appeared everywhere. Mark Wahlberg walks out on The View and wins the room. Joy Behar faces backlash after fiery interview. Wahlberg, cool, collected, and done with the drama. Even celebrities and former guests began chiming in online, many standing with Mark, criticizing Joy's aggressive approach. That evening, Mark posted a short message on his social media accounts. "It's okay to disagree. It's okay to challenge someone. But it's never okay to humiliate them. Everyone deserves respect, even if you don't see eye to eye. Thanks to those who reached out. I'm proud to stand for what I believe in, and to walk away when it's right to do so." His post gained millions of likes within just a few hours. Joy, on the other hand, stayed silent. And that silence spoke volumes, louder than anything she could have said in her own defense. And just like that, the curtain fell. Not just on an interview, but on one of the most talked about, unforgettable moments in daytime television. The day Mark Wahlberg walked onto The View, stayed calm as long as he could, and then walked out, not defeated, but on his own terms. So what do you think? Did Mark handle things the right way? Did Joy cross a line? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you like this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more surprising showdowns, behind-the-scenes drama, and the untold moments Hollywood doesn't always want you to see. Stick around, because the next story is coming soon.